Well, hello everyone. This is your weekly astrology forecast from Born Without Boundaries Tarot over here on Astrology Motivation. That's right, this is my second of two YouTube channels, and I hope that you will enjoy them both. Over here is where I do the weekly astrology forecast as well as daily tarot card readings live, so you can interact with me on a daily basis. Over on Born Without Boundaries Tarot is where I upload the 1 minute pick a card every single week, as well as the weekly astrology tarot card readings, zodiac specific. So between the two, you get a whole ton of really wonderful content that is astrology and tarot based for you to enjoy and hopefully get some advice from. So the astrology this week is going to be frustrating to say the least. In this video, what we're going to do is go over the planetary transits as well as planetary aspects that are going to be primarily impacting all of us this week. I'm going to tell you the energy that they're going to generate, sort of the mentality that they're going to generate, and then it's up to you to choose what to do with it. Please feel free to leave your comments below because I love to know how the energy is impacting you. But if you're looking for more specific zodiac sign specific readings, then check out the 12 that I upload every week to my YouTube channel, Born Without Boundaries Tarot. These kind of work in conjunction with each other, to be honest with you. So we still have primary aspects. We still have Mercury, this Mercury-Venus conjunction. It is loosening. It was in perfect conjunction last week. It was like 1-2 degrees, and now it's like 3 degrees, and by the end of the week, 4 degrees. The sun is certainly away from them by about 8 to 10 degrees. So they're not in a tight conjunction anymore, but Venus and Mercury are still in what we would consider a pretty close conjunction. But there's a lot of impact on them this week that was not on them last week. It started late last week. It starts probably today, which is Sunday, the 27th of November. It's an opposition to Mars. So this conjunction between Mercury and Venus is opposite Mars, and for the first couple of days in the week, that's where the opposition stays, and then we get a tighter opposition, or the opposition kind of moves to the sun as the planets move. So the opposition to Mars, which is in retrograde, it definitely gives it's like almost like it's hard for us to control our actions with regards to love and finances and our communications. It makes it very, very difficult to not get hot under the collar or overreact about things, get really, really frustrated or really, really reactionary and yeah, let's just say reactionary. So that could be, you know, a watch your words situation. It'll just be challenging to do that. The opposition kind of makes us blindsided in terms of our behavior. And with Mars in the mix, it could be very explosive. Sexually, absolutely, between Mars and Venus. But also in terms of the way that we communicate and how we think, jumping to conclusions or jumping in head first before we've really thought things through, speaking before we think, will be something that I think is challenging, if not handicapping this week. Another really challenging aspect also impacting Venus and Mercury, there's a lot hinging on Venus and Mercury this week, is the square to Neptune between Venus and Mercury. Now that means that's not a really good thing, especially since we have the opposition in the beginning of the week to Mars. It's almost like, so what does that do? Neptune, when it's square to other energies, confuses them. It makes them foggy. It makes it hard to make decisions because it's like illusions or delusions get in the way. You're not necessarily acting upon what's really there, but more you're being led by what you just assumed or by something that wasn't true. It may not be a blatant lie, but it's like almost a misinterpretation. Think of fogginess. It could also have to do with health, since Neptune, especially Neptune in Pisces, really does have to do with health. and healing. This sense of maybe we're not making the most healthy choices. Maybe our health itself is impeding our ability to do things this currently, to talk to people, especially if you're, I've been saying this for a while with all this interaction with Neptune. It's almost like if flu season had an astrological kind of configuration, it would be squares to Neptune. So that could be also what's getting in the way of you getting out there and being able to communicate correctly, or being able to get the work done that you want to get done. But there is kind of like that hazy fogginess around it. Really interesting to me is Mercury and Venus are also sextile to Saturn. And even though Mercury and Venus are in opposition to Mars, Saturn is still trine to Mars. So it's almost like our actions are really flourishing now when it comes to following rules and standardizations and getting things done in a practical way that does uphold and follow the rules, almost in a military kind of way. But it's harmonious, which means it's kind of what we need right now. We could find ourselves in a position where we really need some sort of counseling advice, or we're really looking to an authority figure right now because it makes us feel comfortable, or there's just a sense of falling back on, you know, the way standard practices and procedures, because things are not clear. Here's the thing. Hold on. I wrote this down. Something with the South Node. There is a quincunx between, what is it, and the South Node? I believe it's Jupiter in the South Node, which means that even though we may be wanting to expand beyond our comfort zones, we're finding it difficult to do it. And because we're finding it difficult, we're now leaning more on our comfort zones, which is what has already been built, what has already been put into practice. And I gotta tell you, that's not really what Uranus had in mind. Uranus says when there's a challenge, innovate. You know, don't fall back on what's comfortable, but instead move forward and generate the energy into the future. Look, if you can't find the answers in places that you have in front of you or places that you've been before, then look somewhere new or go about finding those answers in a different way. The issue is that people aren't really doing that right now, and I think it is the threat to their friendships, their interactions, their love life, their romance, and even their pocketbooks. There is a sense of not wanting to rock the boat in those areas. There's this beautiful sextile between Mercury and Venus and Saturn, which is going to dissipate on the Mercury side of things as Mercury moves farther away from Venus. But even at the end of the week, Saturn sextile Venus will remain. And what does that mean? It means getting things done through love, getting things done in a very practical way, really falling in love with the ideas that make sense and people that make things work, or even in some ways really being attracted to older people who already have themselves established. It seems that in our fogginess, we want to learn. We want to learn from somebody with experience. We're looking for guidance. And in and of itself, that's a wonderful thing. I think toggle point or the challenge is, do I want to fall back on what's been done before? As long as you use it as a learning tool this week and don't fall back on what's been done before, then I think that you'll be using this energy in an awesome way. You're using it in a way that is the most practical, because you're learning and saying, hey, you know what? If this has worked in the past, then maybe we should do it this way. Or why did it work in the past, and what can I learn about that, maybe for inspiration on to help me solve these issues with moving forward in a new direction? Or is the new direction even worth it? Is it even valuable? Or was I just moving in a new direction to move in a new direction? That's not a good enough reason either, is it? It just seems like things are really making sense when we look at when we sort of follow the rules, when we follow what's supposed to be done, I think maybe it has a more universal application, which is slow the fuck down. You know, don't look at restrictions as stops, you know, as oh no, you're not allowed to, but instead look at them as checkpoints of, let me check in, let me see how far I've come, let me see how I'm doing, and let me see what I have to learn to continue to move forward. I think that's probably the best way to use this energy right now. A very pragmatic point of view, a very kind of authoritarian perspective on love, on having personal authority, self-authority. There could also be a sense of, because Mercury and Venus are in Sagittarius, getting paperwork together, getting certifications together, like getting passports ready to be able to legally go abroad or travel abroad. This might be a great time to get your passport, especially if it has expired. If you found out that what you did in the past doesn't matter anymore, it's a good time to go back and renew those things or start new. It is an actually really good time to take your time to do things in the correct way. With Saturn being in such a strong position now, you know, trine to Mars in retrograde and sextile to the Mercury-Venus conjunction, are we doing things the right way? Are we dotting the I's and crossing the T's? Has all the paperwork gone in correctly? This is when that's really going to count and really help you and come back and haunt you if you haven't done it correctly. But it will also be, I think, a good time, and you'll have enough time to be able to put things in the right order if they were in a messed up order. They will definitely expose where we were foggy and where we need help. It won't necessarily be the easiest thing to learn. In a way, we could easily get distracted. Or maybe we have gotten easily distracted in the past, but I think if we just sit down and give ourselves the patience that we need, that's going to take us very, very far this week. The Sun, more toward the end of the week, is going to be in opposition to Mars in retrograde, which is, I think, really interesting energy. When the Mars and the Sun go in opposition, they tend to drain each other. They tend to be two very passionate, prideful energies that just drain the shit out of each other. But the Sun represents our sense of ego, our sense of life purpose, our sense of courage. And Mars retrograde is the actions that we've taken, the actions that we took, maybe even slowing down. So there is a sense of feeling compromised somehow, feeling our sense of value compromised because things are taking so long, or because we don't have the stamina that we once had, or maybe we just don't have the stamina to begin with. I don't think this is a great time to initiate anything. I think this is a great time to catch up with all the administrative work that we haven't been paying attention to, but that needs to be paid attention to, so that when we move forward, we're moving forward correctly, and we're moving forward, you know, with standards, and we're moving forward with, you know, everything in line the way it's supposed to. So this is kind of like, this week is frustrating because it's kind of a quality checkpoint. You know, it's kind of like when the OSHA inspector comes in and says, but have you done it correctly? I'm here to check on you. So if you have a lot of checkpoints, or you have people, you know, coming in the house to check up things, or prepare yourself this week for those things. If you have a house inspector or a business inspector, or you have to get legal paperwork in line, this is the week to do it. And I know it's a grind, and I know it's not the most fun thing to do. I know it's not the most fun work to do. But I promise you that you will be happy that you've done it. And considering your low energy, considering it could be that you are low energy. Sun is in Sagittarius, which is a really happy, wonderful place for it. But Mars is in Gemini. So remember, Gemini rules communications. It rules written communications, how you verbally communicate your thoughts and ideas. And since Mars is in retrograde, you know, what hasn't been said or what hasn't been done can catch up to your goals and your aspirations and your purpose. And that's why I say it's almost like getting this great opportunity to go on a trip and then realizing, oh, my passport is expired and I might have to wait 6 freaking weeks or pay an extra $100 to expedite the passport to come quickly. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. This is the week all that piddly shit will catch up to you, because it's really not so piddly. It's actually really important. It's just things that we would have rather put out of our minds. And Saturn does represent authority. And since Saturn is in basically the position of power in the zodiac right now, there is a sense of that's going to catch up to you, and it's going to get its way, and there's not going to be any way for you to avoid it or get around it. You're just going to have to get her done. And I know that, like I said, it can be irritating, but good news is Chiron is trine the sun. This is really beautiful energy because it's healing and helpful energy. Chiron is, of course, all the pain and suffering that we've been through that have taught us things. And what do we learn from our pain and suffering and sadness? And in some ways, how can we use it to teach others? Now, this could also be the authority figure in your life, your mother, your father, or your boss, using their telling you what to do based on what they know works because they've suffered through not doing it the right way. So once again, this is a really good time to take advice from somebody who has experienced doing it the wrong way, from somebody who has experience with doing it the right way. This is a really good time to trust in that advice because it will be beneficial to you and it will, guide you in the right direction. It's actually very benefic energy with a trine and a sextile. All that Saturn is engaged in. Saturn is trying to help. And when you look at Chiron, which is almost like the lower aspect of Saturn, because Saturn is all about discipline and restriction, and you suffer to learn. Well, Chiron is all about what have you learned from your suffering? And since Chiron is also trine the sun, this is a beautiful time where even though Mars in retrograde, we might be slow to the uptake, or we might not know what to do or haven't done what we should have done. There's a sense of real understanding and learning from it, and being able to ask somebody who's been in this position before, okay, well, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? And they will absolutely help you. So please do not hesitate. Saturn really doesn't usually represent like a therapist, though Saturn is an Aquarius, which could mean it's more universal. But it's almost like probably an accountant or a tax official, perhaps a lawyer, perhaps a counselor to a certain extent, or a consultant that is just, that for a fact has learned from experience. This is the kind of advice you want to take, and it could be you find yourself giving this kind of advice this week and really healing from the suffering and really understanding your trajectory in life based on how you can help, where you can be of use to people and where you can be in service to others with such really favorable aspects that Chiron and Saturn are involved in. It's always good to ask yourself, how can I be of service to others? How can my experiences and what I've been through actually start to put into place structures that will support other people in some way? So that also speaks to being able to trust the authority figures in your life and being able to have something to some sort of safe haven or solid ground to rely on when you have these squares to Neptune, which is all about woohoo, fantasy. And fantasy is wonderful, but not when it's square to this energy. It's just distracting. In some ways, I just feel like we will know where we've been distracted. We will know where we've been too hopeful, or we will know, or it'll be easier to pick out where we have been deceived. And the way that you'll be able to pick it out is just ask somebody to take you through the steps. Just ask somebody to show you their resume and what they've done. And you could be put up to this test too, is like, okay, prove it. It's almost that. It's like that very Saturnian energy of, okay, prove it. Only this time around, it will absolutely work in our benefit to say that to people. Okay, prove it. Like, show me what you've done. Like, show me what you've achieved. You know, which direction, you know, how have you gotten here? And I think that that will put a lot of bullshit to rest, because there is a lot of smoke being blown up our ass. But when your feet are firmly planted and you know who you are and you've been through fog before, there's a sense of personal authority that is inside of you that realizes, okay, I've been through this before, and what I'm going to do is just put forth my strategies that I've learned in the past that are effective and efficient, and they will get you to where you need to go. I love you guys so much. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and check out all the other videos on this channel. Please do subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so that you know when I go live, and you can participate in those live chats with me over here. And then also go check out the videos on Born Without Boundaries Tarot YouTube and Born Without Boundaries Tarot over on Vimeo. Guys, I love you so much, and I'll see you in the videos.